The movie opens in a quaint town bookstore, where Joe, the seller, flirts with a customer named Ash. They bond over coffee, discussing something called the ultimate purpose, leading to a relationship. One morning in a cafe, Joe admits he still doesn't know Ash's job. She dodges the question, instead confessing her love. Nearby, Hunter is shocked by a man's sudden reaction. Hunter responds violently, and at the table, Ash confesses she's not from around here. Before explaining, Hunter fatally shoots her and leaves the gun on another table. Joe was crying over the body after the initial shock. He tried to catch up with Hunter, who suddenly disappeared into the alley. Over the next 2 weeks, Joe was so depressed that he canceled all his plans and didn't leave his apartment at all. His friend Oliver tried to visit him, and eventually Joe let him in. Oliver brought him coffee, but Joe couldn't taste it, and felt his arms were so weak that he dropped the cup. Oliver tried to comfort Joe, but Joe wouldn't listen, so Oliver left. That night, Joe bought a gun and a lot of bullets, said he would see Ash soon, and attempted to end his life. He pulled the trigger, but it didn't work. After several attempts, he tried the gun on the couch, and the bullet fired, damaging it. When Joe tried again, it failed once more. The apartment manager heard the shot and considered calling the police, but Joe assured her it was an accident. Joe then fired at the window, shattering the glass, and he jumped out, hearing Cass call him. As he flew through the air, surrounded by glass, he was startled and suddenly awoke in bed. Realizing it was a dream, the couch was undamaged, and the gun lay on the table. The manager mentioned messages from Cass. He panicked and fled the building, terrified. On the street, he saw unfamiliar faces, including one on a billboard. His phone was flooded with messages from Cash, but fear kept him from checking them. Seeking guidance, he turned to Oliver, who suggested Ash might have pre-recorded those messages. Encouraged, Joe decided to read them. A video of Ash warned something must have happened to her. She instructed him to retrieve a special order from the bookstore. Meanwhile, Erica and her team were managing the system, were tracking Joe's movements, and they were watching him closely. Joe went to the bookstore and picked up the special order, which was a small book. On the first page, there were love messages from Ash. When Joe read them, his head began to ache, and his vision turned blurry. Thankfully, the issue lasted only a few minutes, and he managed to leave without anyone noticing. He was unaware of the man following him. This man returned to Erica and informed her, so she ordered Joe's arrest and the return of the book. The system administrator used a computer to mobilize other people, and one even joined him in the elevator. Disguised as one of the residents of the building, he went to his apartment and received a message from Ash, telling him that this stranger could kill him. Joe rushed to his apartment and tried to close the door, but the man put his foot in the door and opened fire. The apartment manager tried to contact the authorities but was offline. Joe went to get his gun from the table and fired a shot, but missed, so he tried to hide. When the man got closer, Joe fired another shot but missed again. The man came to attack, but Joe's body moved unexpectedly without his will. The strange man shot inside, getting Joe all confused. He heard someone in the hallway, so he cautiously approached the door. Another attacker appeared, and Joe quickly disarmed him, engaging in a fight. The man made Joe drop his gun, easily overpowering him until suddenly, Joe began to dodge rapidly. This allowed him to take down the man with a single move. The man recovered immediately and started attacking Joe with a skill he didn't previously have. Joe threw himself against the table, and when the man tried to respond, Joe slammed his face into the wall. The man said he didn't understand. Joe was attacked and managed to fight back until the attacker was unconscious. Returning to his apartment, he saw Ash on a live broadcast, not a video. Meanwhile, the body at his door vanished. Ash explained her absence was due to issues hacking the system, and that time operated differently where she was. She needed to share history first. Years back, technology evolved swiftly. Advanced AI and hyper-realistic rendering emerged. All of this was originally developed for the entertainment industry, but it occurred to intelligence agencies to use it. Hunter was a genius software engineer employed at Syntech, one of the big companies. He gathered as much real-world information as possible and fed it to the machine for analysis and study. But he had a secret project on the side, aiming to integrate all that data to create a virtual reality that was alive, fed by a continuous stream of information. Hunter couldn't do it alone, and one day, he received a message from another programmer offering to help. They agreed to work together. He created a DO world, which was essentially a complete residential community. The only thing missing was real people with feelings and free will. Hunter began using his own Dio to conduct all the experiments he wanted, from dangerous surgical implants to advanced weapons. After a while, Hunter became the CEO of Syntech, and things started moving faster. He offered his Dio to test everything without consequences, claiming that virtual people were cheaper than real ones, and created nearly 500 Dio models until he reached the treasure that is the Dio present now. Here he began to understand it was a computer program, but Kosh told him the real content, and she loves him. Kosh is also a real woman living in the real world and working in an intelligence agency, and Hunter only killed her model in the Dio. Kosh continued to tell Hunter's story, saying all his experiments were unethical. So the government eventually banned the modeling technology, but instead of destroying it, Hunter hid it in the DU the day he killed Ash. Hunter disappeared thanks to his administrative privileges, but he did things against the laws of physics and could potentially damage the DU and cause errors because the DU no longer felt reality. All this time, Ash was trying to find the hidden technology, and on her mission, she met Joe, whom she loved. The book she gave Joe had another layer of data that we need to review soon. He's seeing the images Ash used in her story. Joe discovered that the second programmer is his old friend Oliver, whom he hasn't seen for years. Ash wants Joe to contact Oliver and ask for his help, because she can't enter the DU again. And this made Joe wonder what prevented him from ending his life, and who gave him these additional skills. At the same time, Erica visited Hanton, who was playing with a strange ball. She explained that Joe's mission is causing many problems, and her team can't fix it fast enough. The only way to ensure no one enters the DU again is to isolate it from the global networks, but Hanton refused to do so because it would stop the flow of information. Erica told him they're risking exposure and that Hanten is killing billions of people. But Hunter didn't pay attention to her words and continued with a speech about humanity's progress before Erica left. Hunter asked her to find the real thing, and after some time, Oliver called Ash, but he only had 30 seconds to talk. She told him that she wanted him to help her stop the deal, and also with Joe. Oliver promised to stay in touch, and at the same time, Ash's alarm went off, announcing the arrival of armed people wearing strange masks. Ash managed to hide herself and left her apartment without being seen. In the street, there was a drone flying around, but Ash managed to hide herself again before it saw her, thanks to her computer that was tracking Oliver's call. Ash followed the map and found Oliver's house. He didn't let her in until she proved to him that she wasn't carrying a firearm, only a knife. Ash shared with him the details of her experience in the duo and told him that she believed these programs are real people. She doesn't think they deserve the experiments, but they also don't deserve to be shut down. Oliver didn't say why he lived in the duo. He admitted he stopped Joe from ending his life and gave him additional skills. Realizing Ash cared for Joe, he helped her by revealing a hiding spot in an old building. Later, Oliver provided Ash the means to return and reunite with Joe. Hunter noticed a sudden change in the computer code. Joe was unsure how to handle Ash knowing she wasn't real, but Ash reassured him of her reality with a kiss. Their moment was interrupted as Ash was removed from the duo and returned to her apartment. Oliver said Hunter noticed them, so Ash needed to escape. Soon after, a masked man was behind her in the office. Oliver called for help, expressing the discussion was dangerous. His theory: Hunter would soon close the office, deciding it wasn't worth fixing the mistakes, and he could start new. This could mean Joe and others might vanish. Oliver suggested Joe should retrieve data for his model, kept for years. Developers sometimes left things in the code, and Oliver admitted he did the same with the current office. The book I gave to Joe had a backup copy of the entire deal, which is the data that Ash was trying to access. Oliver gave Joe a key and told him to upload all the data, go to his apartment, and await further instructions. Joe accepted the task, but stopped by his apartment first to grab his gun and say goodbye to his real-world apartment manager. Meanwhile, Ash was running from the masked man who started shooting. She managed to take cover behind a wall, hiding behind a garbage bin, and didn't come out until the man was close enough for her to attack him. They got into a fight, and the man didn't allow Kosh to pull out the knife, so instead, she broke the mask and hit him several times until he fell. Then she took the man's gun and shot him while asking him about the duo technology. The man refused to say anything, so Kosh shot him again and walked away. Unfortunately, when she left the alley, another man hit her and knocked her out. When Kosh woke up, she was tied to a chair in Hunter's office. She confronted him about his unethical practices. He said she was no different because of what she did inside. After that, Hunter entered the DU to meet Oliver. The one who told him that he worked with him because he didn't know his true intentions until it was too late, said he was a psychopath but promised not to get in his way. Meanwhile, Hunter's men found Oliver's real body and killed him, pulling Oliver out of the duo. A few seconds later, Joe received a programmed message from Oliver saying he was now alone. Joe entered an old apartment and found a computer with all the data. He placed his hand on the control panel, and all the information was sent immediately. This prompted a warning to Erica, who ordered her men to stop Joe, and shortly after, 2 of the men appeared outside the window. Joe used the key on the screen, which opened a cupboard full of guns. When the men came in, Joe quickly shot them. Suddenly, he heard Hunter's voice and vanished, reappearing at the dock outside the city. Hunter was there and shot Joe in the shoulder before threatening him, saying that if Joe died because of Hunter, he wouldn't appear again. Hunter used his control panel to disarm Joe and make him fly, beginning to torture him. Joe was about to disappear completely, but when Hunter said his name, Ash, Joe screamed in anger and regained control of himself. Hunter didn't understand what was happening. Joe descended, reloaded his gun, and shot Hunter, who slipped into the real world. In the office, Hunter declared it was time to restart, allowing Ash a moment to say goodbye. Hunter took it seriously and promised to call Joe. Joe spoke his last words to Ash as the world disintegrated, telling her his love is real despite being digital. His mobile vanished, and the ground dissolved into darkness. Once deletion was confirmed, Hunter ordered the guards to kill Kosh. Oliver's voice intervened, confronting Hunter. The ball on the desk shook, floated, expanded, and disappeared. Oliver appeared on a screen, confusing Hunter as Oliver was thought to be dead. Oliver explained he hid different universes inside the DU. The ball's particles reformed to reveal Joe, who suddenly had a gun, forcing a guard to drop then regain his weapon. But his body started to give way, and Erica took advantage of the opportunity, starting to hit the guard until he lost consciousness. She told Hunter she stopped his evil plan, freed Ash, and then Joe fired a few shots at Hunter, causing the guard to fall through the window. Ash and Joe finally managed to reunite. Later, Ash and Joe visited Oliver, who explained that the universe is a system of different levels, and that flesh and blood are not different from code. He just needed to cut Joe's code and paste it into Ash's level. When Oliver returned home, he drank something and disappeared into another level.